Welcome to the flowerschool.com video library. I'm Leanne Kessler, Director of the Floral Design Institute, here to show you one of my newest takes on the prom wrist corsage. There's so many different ways to make them, so many different flowers, so many different materials. It's kind of fun to get creative and look at new and different ways to make a beautiful wrist corsage. To secure this wrist corsage, the base on the arm is going to be just luxurious ribbon. It's double-sided satin, and to use it I'm just going to cut off a snippet, nice and long, and then another one that's not quite as long, a little shorter. And this short one, just making a single loop, that's all, and scrunching it together, and then using the long one, knot that. So this becomes your wire, holding it all together, pulling it taut, and then going back and knotting it one more time because you don't want it to come undone. So I've got my ribbon, that's going to be the base. Then the inspiration for this was those beautiful brooch bridal bouquets that I'm seeing now. Everybody's loving them. And that collecting of brooches and jewelries and pearls and beads, something I've always enjoyed doing. If you go through my drawers, they're kind of filled with odds and ends of things. So I pulled a few that I loved, and we're going to make our own brooch-inspired pieces. To begin, you just want to have a little bit of metal wire, an assortment of findings that you'll have maybe in your junk drawer, and then I'm using a single loamy gem from the Oasis Company, and that's going to be the anchor point. Then flowers, just a simple Phalaenopsis orchid. Doesn't take much with all this beauty. To create the brooch base, you want to start by just beading on a selection of findings. Doesn't even matter what it is. Could be a button. You just slide it right through the shank. It could be a pearl bead, finding the hole and just sliding it in. Well, I guess I'm going to have to admit it. I can't see the hole anymore. I have to put on the glasses. So we'll go ahead and slide that on there. Gee, amazing how well that works. You could use a larger bead. It can be a whole variety of things. It doesn't really matter what you choose to use. Maybe another button, and maybe one more button, just because I love buttons. I've always collected those. Then, taking one end, twist that wire together so that it's secured. And then I clip the extra piece off, then sliding the next piece down and overlapping just a little bit. And then the next one. And this time it's a bead, so I'm going to twist it right around there to help hold everything in place. Just winding the wire, and then coming up with another. And my last bead and button, sliding them up. And once I slide them up there, I can cut this loose, and I start taking the wire and kind of twisting it around each piece so that I'm securing it, overlapping things so that they all fit together in my hands, giving a little bit of movement. And then the last step is to take your loamy gem and feed it right through one of the button shanks, overlapping it into place, and then using that wire and the wire you started with, twist them together. And that locks it completely together so that you've got a solid brooch to work with buttons, beads, pearls, and a loamy gem. For a working base, I just rolled up my towel and then set the ribbon over it. Need to go through and dovetail all the ends, just cutting it at an angle once it's folded. So again, you just fold it in half, and then cut it at an angle, getting all four ends. Then going back with just a little bit of ruscus, using the leaves. That's going to create a base to glue everything onto. And then I'm going to use Oasis Flow adhesive glue to anchor everything in. So I go through and I just cut the leaves off. Don't need very many, maybe 3 or 4, various sizes. Starting with the largest ones, just a tiny bit of glue right on the base. I do both sides so that it catches on to the ribbon from both sections, and then sliding it in. Do a second one. Sliding it in. And again. So you can see I'm building just a substantial base that will support everything. Sliding it in, and I kind of lift and separate my loops of the ribbon so that it can fit right in there. Maybe a smaller leaf now. There's a nice little one. A little bit of glue. And sliding it in there. One more, because I don't want it to be too loose here. There we go. So I ended up using a total of 5 leaves to create a nice base. Then the brooch, that goes on next. And the brooch is very important that it gets centered where the weight will sit nicely on the wrist because it's heavy. And if you don't center it, it won't work well. So I'm going to cut the wires off and then roll them in on themselves, getting glue on the back side, making sure and capture several of the buttons and the beads so that the glue is spread around, so that the weight will be distributed nicely. And then thinking about how this is going to sit on the wrist, the band's going to go across this way, bowed this way, so I'm going to place it right over here, making sure that it locks on to ribbon and leaves. So I'm going to have nice and stable positioning without any problem. Then once that's there, then the easy part, just need a single bloom, bit of glue on the back of the flower, let it start to dry a tiny bit, maybe a little more, there we go. So I just have a bit of glue on the back and then nestling it right in with the brooch, making sure that the glue adheres to the ribbon, and then letting it dry before you move it. I think to those long, long days and sometimes way into the long nights of making wrist corsages for the proms, they almost always seem to fall on Mother's Day. Now we're so lucky. There are still a lot of Mother's Day proms, but they stretch out. They can start in April, go on into June. It's just amazing how far they've come. And now we have so many great mechanics available to us that it makes it easier. It's not necessary to stay up all night now to create corsages because you can do beautiful ones with very little effort, all with glue. Isn't it amazing? I just love that stuff. And the brooch, definitely one of my new favorites. For more creative inspiration, check out our website at flowerschool.com. If you've got questions, don't hesitate to contact us. You can reach us at the website or pick up the telephone at 1-800-819-8089. If it's easier, use my personal email. It's Leanne, Leanne, at floraldesigninstitute.com. And a favor to ask you, as you're creating your wrist corsages, send me a picture. I always love to see what you do, see what creative talent is out there. Please share. For now, have fun, happy prom time, and do something you love.